The western part of Nairobi used to look like that. But thanks to this and this, now it looks like this. But several kilometers south, Maasai land used to look like this. But because of this, now it looks like this. This is the story of Western Nairobi's urban growth, the people who witnessed it, and how it could be transformed for good. The main communities living in the western part of Nairobi are Agikuyu and Maasai. Our story includes three different characters: Nyeri from Ndenderu, Wigwara from Kikuyu, and Naseran from Ongata Rongai.
My name is Njeri. I am an Agikuyu from the Ndenderu region. We were farmers for generations, and the main identity of my region is agriculture. My name is Wawera. I'm also an Agikuyu from Kikuyu. Our life depends on the gem of our region, the Ondiri swamp, and water is the main identity of my region. My name is Naserian. I am a Maasai from Ongata Rongai. My homeland used to be mainly pastoral land. The main identity of my community is grazing land.
From the highlands to the northwest, to the low grazing fields, to the southeast. The west fringe of Nairobi is very diverse. Each group has their own unique languages and cultural identity. The rich red volcanic soil gives them a wide range of possibilities of different kinds of vegetation growth, from forests to grasslands. The elevation ranges approximately from 1600 meters to 1900 meters, and the temperature circles from 10 degrees to 29 degrees through the year. Hence, this area has a potential for multidimensional growth, both for nature and people together. Nowadays, ecosystem connectivity has been disrupted. Forests, swamps, rivers, streams have become isolated patches. So, which design strategies can support nature and human-made systems to coexist? Compensation ecosystem connectivity reestablishes ecological networks that can function biologically and as well frame human settlements. In order to distinguish and introduce natural and cultural elements, it is necessary to identify a proper vocabulary for both systems, ecological and human-made. The strategy includes the development of private forestry, extension forests, canopy, and forest pockets. We have developed new modes of inhibition by creating rural metropolises, urban countrysides, and riparian settlements. Now, let's see how this landscape vocabulary can be translated into reality. Isolated patches were connected with new links: forest extension and forest pockets. Productive landscapes like grazing lands, productive forests or orchards, and agricultural fields will increase productive values of the lands. Private forestry and canopies will provide shades to the built areas, hence acting as heat absorbers in the microclimate. The border between rural and urban starts to vanish. Agricultural activities are introduced into urban parts, creating an urban countryside. Concurrently, public facilities are provided into rural areas, which forms a rural metropolis. Riparian settlements along the vital parts of the corridor will become a part of the landscape and support ecosystem conditions. Now, we can see what our local friends can tell us about their respective areas in Nairobi's western periphery.
I live on the ridge near the river valley. My ancestral occupation is farming. Traditionally, communal farming was an important part of our livelihood. Eventually, we sold our farmlands and many of us shifted to non-farming jobs in order to provide better for our families. In the Dendero region, there are numerous valleys with streams, farmlands, and forests. Our linear dispersed rural settlements follow topography and circulation routes. We no longer rely on the streams for everyday use as we once did. There are numerous new settlements which cut through and diminish the forest. The territory has been overrun with gated communities, and there is so much land that we can no longer access. What if we could connect the forest gaps? It would certainly be nice to walk along the river through the forest. Forests can once again become part of our everyday life. Our settlements can be reforested, providing a cooler climate and more shade. We also need to increase our farmlands for food security and livelihoods. Orchards and community gardens are extended from new forestry as shared cultivation spaces. Meanwhile, backyard farming plots surround housing units as private forestry, and common yards help clustering the units together. The introduction of diverse productive spaces throughout our community will help find agricultural job opportunities and rely on our local production. We can reestablish river ecologies as well. And to save these rivers from drought, we can introduce retention ponds in addition to defined rainwater drains down the terrain, which helps collect water into retention ponds and to be used in dry seasons for irrigation. The way we deal with farmlands, rivers, and forests should be supported by our settlements. Balance of the two systems is a beneficiary for our life. We also need more space for the growing population. Thus, following the introduced productive landscapes, small vulnerable blocks are relocated with bigger units and allocated into the new landscape patches. Clustered houses would encourage the sharing of in-between spaces and communal farming.
The valley system has been disrupted over time, followed by the decrease in agricultural practices. The fertile soil close to the rivers can be used for farming during the dry season. Retention ponds will be used for irrigation. The river valley system will be connected by forest extension, penetrating through settlements. Low-down settlements were allocated through the farmlands and small-scale agricultural fields. Urban settlements started spreading out rapidly, cutting up the surrounding ecosystems and agricultural fields. New productive landscapes will be strategically allocated to intertwine with both communal and private productive forestries, along with their indigenous farming style.
I am from Kikuyu region. The Ondiri Swamp and Kikuyu Springs are the main water features of my area. In the past, Ondiri Swamp was a lake with a clear glassy surface and surrounded by forest. Deforestation and degradation took place in the colonial era, which led to its transformation into a bog-like swamp. The development of industries and greenhouses close to the swamp has escalated the water pollution. I remember my grandfather's stories about the dense forest and the diverse nature within it. In that time, farm parcels were bigger, but now most of us have sold big parts of them to developers. The forests are also disappearing as most are being consumed for timber and electricity poles. They are now very fragmented. The polluted water is no longer safe for our domestic use. Wouldn't it be nice if we could improve water management and farming techniques to protect the place we live in? New water plants and use of drip irrigation systems will help us to improve rural farming and new orchards in the urban areas. Rainwater harvesting and use of communal reservoirs will help us conserve water and minimize digging of many private boreholes. New water systems need to be anchored within new forests. Reforestation can take place by connecting the fragmented forest patches, creating a new ecological corridor that connects water and forest systems. We will make space for intercropping agriculture and agroforestry along with the new forest. We will change the streets into rain gardens to manage water runoff. Constructed wetlands will be an effective natural process of treating the industrial effluents and farm runoffs. With all these changes, we will have more farm production and better water supply. The rivers and the swamp will also become cleaner for the benefit of Kikuyu and Nairobi at large.
Dense forest areas have been fragmented over time. Today, the spaces left can be both ecosystem corridors as well as productive landscapes. Intercropping, water management systems, and cleaning ponds can take advantage of the fertility of the soil while keeping the water tower of Kikuyu clean. As previously said, forests used to cover this area. Humans settle in these sites over time. Rainwaters and constructed wetlands facilitate the coexistence between human and nature. Infill housing allows further urban growth without threatening existing natural sites. As ecosystem fragmentation happened everywhere, forest extension is proposed here along with intercropping agriculture. A new industrial park will be introduced for treating polluted water coming from existing industries.
Ongatarongai is my hometown, the place where I was born. For centuries, my ancestors had grazing lands here. Some of us bring our cattle to the land of Agikuyu, Denderu, and the Kikuyu region. We pay a rent for the land to feed our animals. For instance, in the area of the two rivers were once full of fish. Today, it is polluted and people throw garbage on it or wash their clothes on motorbikes. What if the inhabitants could take care of the rivers? The locals best know about the crops that can thrive here. These places are a good opportunity for agriculture and animal husbandry since the soil is fertile. Bare land will be transformed into a system of grazing land parks with a respective net of trees and vegetation. Here, features such as rain harvesting, irrigation systems, and biomass energy can renovate a traditional economy. Neighborhoods can become corridors of ecosystem by transforming most of the streets into gardens and subdividing the blocks and introducing private forestry. A massive afforestation and reforestation exercise will happen. As well, the urban area will be transformed into a more diverse patchwork of activities and uses such as crop agriculture, orchards, water treatment systems, facilities, and public space. These activities will introduce more of the rural with the urban, creating an urban countryside. In the case for the rural area, facilities will be provided, reforestation and afforestation will take place, and crop agriculture, orchards, and grazing lands will define the new patchwork. For the urban part, a system of public spaces with grazing land will structure the urban layout. Space is going to be organized to make room for agriculture. A big portion of housing will become more vertical and new facilities will be built. This proposal will allow freedom of movement for both pedestrians and livestock and will make our city much more green and compatible with the economy that characterizes us.
The urban growth has reached the rivers and fragmented the ecosystem that works with them. Here, the ecosystem will be restored and riparian settlements will be introduced. The transition between rural and urban has happened rapidly and has drawn a strict boundary between them. Here, features of ruralism such as agriculture and greenery will create an urban countryside. Riparian settlements will also be compatible with productivity. New forest extension will be introduced with new grazing lands and agriculture in between, as well with water-cleaning ponds along the rivers. As a whole, the connected ecosystem network restructures the built fabric and defines a new, more balanced future for a traditional economy. This was the story of our three characters who walked us through the path to the possible future, so this, and this could be merged into reality with all of that.